Las Vegas, and welcome to Talk the Block, the podcast where we talk about the hit HGTV show Rock the Block. And I'm here today with my favorite Elvis impersonator, Steven.
Oh, I was going to do that. Then you called it. You read my mind. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. So this week we dove into the multi-generational suite.
Yep.
I'm not sure what was necessarily multi-generational about it, but
but it wasn't a was it a free form? What a flex? It wasn't supposed to be a flex room, as somebody tried to make it sound out like it was supposed to be. But.
Yeah, and some of the designs were sweet, and some were not
salty.
So sweet. Some were a little salty.
Salty, yeah. They had that popcorn going. That's what they should have had. I mean, I know we're not getting this yet, but a popcorn maker would have
so much was I thinking that one of these suites was in need of a popcorn maker. Don't think that wasn't running through my head the whole time. Yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, this week's challenge is they had a 250 square foot space with a bathroom.
Cavernous
250 square foot space with a separate entrance. So you couldn't access it from the house itself. It had a separate entrance from the door. And there was a requirement that the teams had to add a kitchenette. So... Yes. Based on that, I guess they could do whatever they wanted, and do whatever they wanted, they did.
Yeah, kind of. I don't know. It really seemed. It really seemed like there was some real creativity going on, and so what I'm about to say, I kind of have to back up. It really felt like there could have been more creativity in a positive direction. Let me put it that way: more creativity and a positive, livable direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
leave it there.
We had a couple of people that sort of envision them as an income property, right? So something that you could rent out as an apartment. We had one that I think very much envisioned it as a luxury hotel suite.
Right. Yep.
And then we had one that had a completely...
Which would be a rental. I mean, the idea, again, rental. Maybe not a long term, a shorter term.
But more of a short term. Right. And we had some expertise in short-term rentals. As we all know, Brooke is a designer of bachelorette party suites, or otherwise known as short-term rentals in Nashville.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, so it was.
Yeah, and Scott did have a show where he did help people. One of the shows, I forget the name of it, but the idea behind the show was he helped people create short-term rentals inside their house to help pay their mortgage. Mm-hmm. So he had a show about that. It kind of sounded like maybe he'd done that on his own too, but he did have a show in Canton, that where he did that. So yeah, this team did have a lot of experience with the idea and concept and staging. Mm-hmm. Staging, another thing that kind of reared its ugly head today.
Yeah. There was one in particular that I thought had a good chance of winning, but their staging was just no bueno.
Yeah, if you got a multi-generational suite where you can't sleep, I don't know.
And the couch in the kitchen is an interesting idea. But I guess you can sit there and lounge and watch whoever's preparing a meal for you.
Well, to that end, back in our house in Washington, I was the president of the Virginia Tech Alumni Association for a year or so, and we would have events over at our house, and we would put food out throughout the house, the dining room, the breakfast nook, and everybody just stood in the kitchen and watched me cook.
So it might have been nice if we had a couch.
Yeah, they had a couch that they could have sat on instead of everybody standing around. But so it is good. From a family standpoint, people kind of gather in the kitchen, and that just provides a comfortable place for them to sit.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Some people like
winner,
have an
winner, chicken
island
dinner
to allow you to do that, but I guess a couch works too. So we'll see.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, Stephen, I say we just dive right into our first house after we take a quick break. How's that sound to you?
Perfect.
All right. Okay, we're back, and let's start with everybody's fun couple, Scott and Brooke.
Yay.
And they assure us that there is nothing romantic going on here.
Yeah. Yeah. Boy, I am glad Paige cleared that up.
Her name's Brooke.
I don't know. Why do I keep calling her Paige?
I don't
I don't know. I was calling Scott Paige earlier. I got Paige on the brain.
You must,
because it was Paige and Brooke. Now it's Scott and Paige. Did we have a Paige? Gee whiz. So yes, sorry, Scott and Brooke. I'm glad Brooke cleared that up. Paige was the judge last.
Yeah, Brooke clearly said that Scott was giving her more of daddy vibes, which is
weird given the fact that she had a bad relationship with her dad. I mean, that's. We're not supposed to. One of our fans has asked us not to go down that rabbit hole, but really, I mean, what is she really saying when she didn't get along with her dad and Scott's giving her dad vibes? Yeah. I mean, okay.
No, but they are the comedy gold.
The comedy duo
this year's season.
Yeah.
So at one point, apparently there is a separate water meter for the multi-generational suite than the house. And when they went to do some work on one of the windows, move one of the windows, I guess Scott cut off a water line and the water wasn't shut off. So they managed to spray each other with water from the water line in the window.
Yeah, and then ruin some drywall and cause a mess.
In the process. Yeah. Then they had another fun conversation about their horoscope signs, which I am totally not shocked that Brooke is into horoscopes.
No, yeah, totally. Yeah, you gotta. That seemed right. And the question, I guess Scott at least knew enough about himself and whether his characteristics of what Taurus, she was a Taurus, right? Mm-hmm. Are correct or not, I don't know, but they were funny.
Yeah, and we had another one of Scott's patented Jim Halpert moments.
But at least two.
At least two. When he looked at the camera and said, Taurus.
One was just a passing glance.
Yes, hard to get along with.
But the other one was definitely the office vibe.
Yeah, he's definitely got that down.
Yeah,
so,
you got to find some way to get through this, right?
And then Brooke,
it does look like they're having fun.
They do look like they're having fun.
Hey,
they're goofing off.
Good for them.
She was painting his face with mud plaster at one point.
I noticed she had some on hers too later, so it wasn't like it was a one-way street.
Back and forth there,
yeah.
And Brooke really did bring the unfiltered honesty.
Yeah, said what everybody was thinking.
That's right.
But that's about the judging, not about their rules.
Yeah. So, all right. Yes. We're not going into judging yet. We're going to do this right. Okay. So their goal was to make this a modern casienda and really turn it into an independent income suite. And to that end, they installed a full kitchen with a dishwasher, stove, sink, and faucet. And Stephen, did you know that a dishwasher can add $75 per month for a rental, that tenants are willing to pay $75 more for a dishwasher?
Well, I don't know what the dollar amount is, but I believe it would add a value. I remember, years ago when we used rentals, you'd look for an apartment that had a washer dryer, right? Or I remember this one place I looked at down in Austin had a washer and dryer in the apartment. And so, I remember then you'd be willing to pay more for a place that had its own washer and dryer. So I would bet dishwasher. I remember my house in Georgia didn't have a dishwasher, and that really sucked. Mm-hmm. I had to go buy one of those ones you roll around, doubled as a prep table. It was kind of cool, but it was you had to hook it up to the sink, and it wasn't as good as having something installed. I had plenty of cabinets. I probably should have just done that, but instead I just bought this roll around dishwasher. Hey, I had a dishwasher. I was happy.
Okay. All right. Well, if you rented from Scott and Brooke, you too would have a dishwasher, but you would not inexplicably have a microwave.
Well, you wouldn't have a microwave. You wouldn't have any storage, so I'm not sure what you would be washing in the dishwasher because there's nothing nothing going to be in there that you could put in there. With the plates and stuff, they're going to be down in the island. I guess on the floating shelves, but the floating shelves weren't that big.
Yeah, I couldn't get it. Like there was only one out of these 4 spaces that had a microwave, and if it's a multi-generational suite, you're much more likely to want a microwave than you are a full burner 4-burner stove, right? Yeah. It's just, short-term rental or, just a guest suite. Microwave, you want to heat up something, heat up water for tea, heat up popcorn, whatever it is. It's much more practical. So I don't know what they were. They were thinking of added value, but they weren't thinking of what their guests really need.
Well, and to your point, the microwave hood combo may be out of vogue, but that's what Mina and Vernon did because it's if you've got no counter space, which they actually did have plenty of counter space, but in the case of of the two people that actually had kitchens, other two contestants that actually participated in the challenge. They didn't have a lot of counter space, and the microwave hood idea would have been good for them.
No, my dad has one of those, and it works fine for him. I mean, it may not be the most beautiful, luxurious thing, but in a small space, it's practical.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, they didn't have that. What they did have, however, which no one else did, was a separate bedroom. So they actually put up walls and had a little separate sleeping space with a barn door that slid across it. And, personally, I loved this because if you're going to have this as a rental apartment, you want some place where you can throw your stuff if you have your guests come over. And it can be awkward to have guests over and your bed is sitting right there. I had a studio apartment when I was in business school. And it was always a little weird when my friends came over to study because we were sitting in what I had sort of set up as my living room area and my bed was right behind it, right?
Yeah.
So I liked the idea of having a separate closed-in bedroom space. So they had a small kitchen, a nice sort of living area, and they used their $3,000 from the week before to put in a fireplace, which I thought really made that like a comfortable living space.
Yeah, I think if you really had if you really were doing this from the start, and I'm not exactly sure why it's that situation. I would really prefer to have the bedroom against the back wall and then have the bathroom kind of in the middle, and that way people aren't walking by your bedroom in order to get to the bathroom if you've got guests. If you're the only person there, it doesn't really matter how it's laid out. But I still think I think that would have been a better arrangement. But given how these houses were laid out, I think that would have been a very expensive change. And so, none of the teams were going to do that. But
yeah, that wasn't something they could do in a week, right?
Yeah.
But I think you're right. If you had the bathroom more toward the front, and then you could have that whole back part for a bedroom.
Right.
Because what Scott and Brooke had to do is they had this little hallway going down by the bedroom. And really, that was wasted space in such a small apartment to have that hallway.
Yeah.
So the hallway was there. And then they also moved the toilet so that if you looked down the hallway, you weren't just staring at a toilet. They moved the sink so that you were staring at the sink.
Yeah, they had to reorient the entire bathroom, move a window and all kinds of stuff because of that because they had to move the door for the suite. So, yeah.
Now, in their bathroom, apparently there was some sale on X-shaped tiles because a couple of the teams used these X-shaped tiles, which I'd never seen before.
No.
So they had sort of I don't know, what color would you call that? Sort of a
orange brown?
Orangish brown.
Brown.
There's a name for that. I don't know, sienna or something. I'm trying to remember from my 64 box of Crayola crayons.
That's not my forte.
But anyway, it was a brownish,
kind of like me and
cross.
I know what a tree is. I know what a shrub is, but don't ask me anymore.
and they had those were X's, and then in between the X's was like an off-white tile. And they did the whole bathroom in this, the shower, the floors, the walls, everything was like that. It was neat. I mean, I thought it was pretty cool for a short-term rental. It was a very sort of dramatic effect. I don't know if I would want to see that every day in my house if I lived in that apartment for 3 years.
I think after a few days of being there, you would get pretty tired of that pattern. That was my takeaway. That when you see it, it's like, oh wow, this is really cool. But then when you've got to live with it, you're like, maybe not so much.
But overall, as a rentable apartment, I thought theirs worked out well. I like the bedroom space, the living space with the fireplace really sort of defined that as a place where you could hang out and relax. The kitchen could have used more storage and definitely could have used a microwave. So if you bought that place, you would probably set up a table somewhere with a microwave. I can't imagine that you wouldn't, But, overall, I thought they did a good job. What did you think?
Yeah, I think overall they did. They definitely, what was it? They had a design surprise this week where they had
design surprise, yes.
Which was kind of fun to watch. That was one of the more entertaining design surprises. But yeah, they got the faucet, which they were able to use. I don't know that I technically would say it added value, but if you don't have a faucet, they didn't have to buy a faucet, so it helped their budget. Maybe not didn't add value to the rental, but it did add budget. And then the chairs they got were kind of brr.
I kind of like those, though, because they had a sort of a Chase Lounge couch against the wall, and then this was it was almost like a little seating bench with like 4 balls on it, but it was curved. And so given how that space was, I thought I think Taniya said, "Oh, this helps the flow," and I thought that was
I think that was the table, the curved table that she was commenting on. But yeah, as far as it just being staging, it was fine. Mm-hmm. It was fine. I would not go. I'm not going out and looking for those. Those are not on my buy list. I'm still looking for that closet door, Murphy.
The Murphy
door.
Closet door. That's on the shopping list.
Yeah,
okay.
I did. I really liked the backsplash in their kitchen, and I think that even had they had put a microwave in, the backsplash still would have been prominent enough to still have that visual impact, even with a microwave over the stove. And then their sink was kind of in the corner of their island, which I think was smart, because then you still kind of had access to it if you were at the stove, but you could be on the side if you were washing dishes. It's kind of a small island, so I think having it positioned in the middle there, they couldn't have it in the middle behind the stove because of the dishwasher. And putting it in the middle of the island the other way, I think would have been a problem. So I think that was nicely laid out. I think they did a really good job. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just trying to think what else. They had sort of a light wood door, which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
Would have been nice if it matched the cabinets exactly, because those were all on the same wall.
Yeah. Yeah. When you were looking at the kitchen, the texture, the grain of the door kind of detracted away from what the wood was in the kitchen. And then they had the refrigerator and they had it framed, and it probably would have been better for them to go to the ceiling instead of just stopping with a small cupboard up above it.
They were desperate for storage.
Yeah. Well, and I think the look would have been better.
Yeah.
Because of that, where the door was and the fridge on the other side, it does kind of create this visual effect of does this look symmetrical, and does it look like it has purpose and stuff like that. So I think that it suffered a little bit in that way. Mm-hmm. But in general, I think all of the teams had really nice doors.
Yeah.
So they all changed the entry door, and I think in every respect I'd say it was positive.
Yeah. Well, I will say Brooke and Scott's was my favorite. I really thought they should have won. But there was no way the other teams. This week was judged by their fellow teams, and we were pretty sure that no matter what Scott and Brooke did, they were not going to win because they already had 2 victories. So they were going to award it to somebody else.
Yeah, yeah. Another, a call out again for all teams except one. Not the team we're going to call out for everything else, but it did look like the 3 of the 4 teams had high-end toilets in there, and which that does cost money. When they're spending money, you don't really see everything that they necessarily spend. I just kind of running through the budget. If anybody that's following along with the budget that they showed on the screen this past week, I did notice we're talking about Scott and Brooke. So Scott and Brooke somehow got $10K back in their budget from previous weeks this past week, because it did not add up. They were supposedly used $20K, or they were planning $20K, and it said they had a remaining $100K, but if you added everything up, you would have come up, like me, with $90K left, and so somehow they got $10K back in their budget. Mina and Vernon got $5K back, so
So the budgets do fluctuate
the
a little.
budgets do
Stephen
fluctuate.
is keeping a close eye on the
Yeah,
money this season.
I this past week went back and I rewatched every episode of Rock the Block and wrote down all the money that all the teams had spent on all the different areas and tracked whether it stayed consistent from week to week or it changed and how it changed and what was like, in some of these numbers you can't really find out because you don't know. Although, what was the that I'm losing the name? The winner from stage one, or not stage one, but season one. She's got a blog site. Jasmine has a blog site, and on her blog site, she actually has exactly how much money she spent on each of the rooms. So that number I've got exactly. Okay. And so, just from the standpoint of, where are these people and how does it go and spending money on different areas, does it, how much does it influence your wins and stuff like that? But anyhow, they got some money back this week.
And as I'm sure all of our listeners are aware, if you tried to do the things they're doing to your own home and tried to do it on the budget they say they're doing it on, good luck.
Oh, yeah. I mean, watching it going, because we've been trying to put a pool in here at our house ever since we bought this place. And, we thought we could get out for under 100 and now it's 150 up. And Jasmine put a pool in hers in season 1 for $30K. And what is season 4 when they all got pools? They all got an additional $25,000 for their pool. I was like, yeah, right.
All right. Well, hey, that is Scott and Brooke. Are we done with Scott and Brooke, Stephen?
Until I bring them up later.
Else
I'll bring it up later. Hey, that's my you have you deal. I got mine.
Okay. All right. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. And now it's time to talk about Mina and Vernon. Mina and Vernon, like Scott and Brooke, decided to make a full kitchen. Both of these teams were really going for maximizing their value add, maximizing their appraisal. So they went with a full fridge, full stove, dishwasher, and the only team that put in a microwave.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I was looking at my notes. We did have something else. Talking about Scott and Brooke. One thing that they were not consistent about was arches, and there was another team that put in an arch. And I was looking through my notes to see if I could figure out real quick before I brought it up, and thinking I could bring it up later, but I'm just gonna bring it up now.
It's Mina and Vernon.
Well, there you go.
Right.
My notes are not exactly readable.
Okay.
Readable. Anyway, yes, they put in a microwave. They had a huge kitchen.
Really big kitchen, all against one wall. It's sort of like an L-shaped kitchen. So it went against the back wall like everybody did, but they also had like maybe a third of the other wall was part of their kitchen. Right?
Yeah. And we learned this when we went to see the houses in person last year. It looks like the refrigerator is miles away from the stove, but I'm sure it's not that. I mean, this whole area was 225 square foot. So I'm betting that the refrigerator is actually closer. It looks like they've got countertops from here to the next city. But, I think it was really nicely laid out from that standpoint. And my concern was that, that the fridge and everything was like halfway down the room, and kind of far away from everything else, especially since they don't have an island, but they do have plenty of counter space. So.
But we do know from visiting these homes in person last year that the way they film them makes them look much bigger than they actually are. Yeah. So if you
or sometimes smaller.
Yeah, it doesn't look.
The proportions of stuff can definitely be off.
Yeah. So anyway, they used two-tone cabinets.
Easy for you to say.
And the cabinets went all the way up to the ceiling on one wall. So plenty of storage space, plenty of counter space. If this was a contest for who could put the best kitchen into the multi-generational speech, hands down, they would have won.
Yeah, I did like that the shelf went over the window, kind of made everything look cohesive. Didn't care for the gold faucet in the kitchen. I know their pulls and everything were gold, but all the appliances were stainless steel, so I think like a brushed nickel would have been better. Mm-hmm. But all in all, as far as the kitchen goes, that's a except for not having an island. I think they could have had an island with like wheels on it so that, you could have moved it out of the way. We've seen that before. I think that was a little bit of a miss, but other than that, yeah, the kitchen was great.
Kitchen was really nice.
Yeah.
And they had a nice dark door with a glass panel
This is the
on it.
multi-generational. This generation doesn't believe in sleeping.
No. And
for that generation, this is the house for them.
If you don't believe in sleeping, but you like to cook, this is the house for you, because apparently a bedroom wasn't a priority for them. Not only not a bedroom, they really didn't even have a bed. They had sort of a day bed tucked in the corner that looked like a single bed, maybe full. It was very small.
Yeah.
So no privacy, no staging for the bed. So even though they had this great kitchen, really bad staging. They're the ones who had the couch in the kitchen, and then to the side of the kitchen, they had tucked in a table with seating for 4, and the table was right next to the bed. So, like, you could have laid on the bed and reached over and got food off of the table. But it didn't really look like a bed. It was clearly a day bed. And then, it was just... I think if they had thought more about their staging and how they laid it out, maybe they could have won. But, because people didn't really, they were happy with the studio look. But this just really didn't even look like a studio. It looked like a living room with a day bed in it,
Yeah, not. And that was staging. So from an appraisal standpoint, that shouldn't. It's still. They still got the closet. They still got it's still technically a bedroom. They've got the kitchen. They got all the appliances. So I don't think in general that's going to hurt them. I thought maybe the couch would pull out to a bed, which would be kind of weird being in the kitchen. But, again, they could have had a Murphy bed someplace, which I think would have made more sense.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think, having it pull out into the kitchen is that bad of an idea in general, because you're not going to be using the kitchen and sleeping at the same time, usually.
Well, now, Stephen, I love the Murphy bed idea, because what they could have done is staged this as sort of like an office meeting space type of thing,
right,
and
where you could watch movies. I'm sorry.
No, but seriously, you see that sometimes where you have a kitchen and then you have, where people can have a meeting or whatever.
That's kind of what it looked like. Very corporate.
Set up the Murphy bed. So it did look very corporate. Mm-hmm. And then, you could pull down the Murphy bed and have a place to sleep. And if you wanted to use it always as a studio, you wouldn't need to put the Murphy bed back up. But as it was, it just sort of lacked an identity for what they were trying to do with it.
Yeah, and the things that they did with the design challenge, they got the jukebox, and then a couple of tables, and so the jukebox was against the wall, and they had a couple tables put in.
They had one table in the shower for no apparent reason. I mean, it was just it was kind of odd.
Yeah.
So, but this team. And Scott even called it out. This team is playing the long game. Every room they go into, all they think about is value add appraisal. Mm-hmm. And Mina even said, look, we could make a bedroom here, but putting up walls to make a bedroom in here doesn't add anything to the appraisal because this already appraises as a bedroom.
Yeah.
But if we put in every appliance known to man, that will add to the appraisal. So that's exactly what they do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But everything else was staging.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So they didn't have to put in a bedroom, but they could have put a bed.
Yeah.
Instead of a couple of tables.
Yeah. And maybe they would have won the challenge. Yeah. But this team, I could see them being one of those teams that doesn't win any challenges and ends up winning. And I've said this before, ends up winning the overall thing because they are so laser focused on what will be value add in the appraisal.
Right. As long as they can make up for whatever dings they're going to get in the master closet or primary closet, whatever we're calling it, on the appraisal, as long as they can make that up. And I think they have. I mean, I think so. They did have a smart lock.
That was
money
good.
On a smart lock, which was good. They do have the Harch sitting room, which I would have expected to see in Scott and Brooke's place. Yes.
So anyway, this was one where, they added a lot of appraised value, but the schizophrenic way they laid it out, I think, cost them the win.
Yeah, and this was the team that had the standard toilet and a water closet, and you questioned whether they needed to have a water closet or not.
Yeah,
the bathroom was kind of weird. I thought the cabinet with the sink was weird. I don't have a problem with having a water closet. That I didn't think the tile looked all that good.
It was kind of unremarkable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looked bad from the standpoint some of the edges of the tile looked like they were either chipped or discolored. They kind of looked uneven.
Yeah, the picture they showed, it looked like the tile was sloppy. We'll have to see what it looks like in person.
It didn't look good at all. I didn't think. But the niche wash, all the niches looked fine in the showers. We'll just cover that right away. But I didn't really care for the colors of the kitchen, but two-toned. I mean, I guess it made sense. That's just a personal point on my standpoint.
Yeah, I liked
didn't
it.
care for them.
All right. Are we done now?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, we are going to pause, and we are going to come back and talk about the winning team, Taniya and Drew. Okay, Stephen. So Taniya and Drew took a little bit of a different approach. While the first two teams we talked about really were looking at this as an income property and adding a lot of things that would, add value to the appraisal, this team really wanted to build a luxury hotel suite. So everything they did was like if you went into like a junior suite in a hotel where you didn't have a separate bedroom, that was clearly the vibe they were going with. And, to that end, it was good. I thought they did a nice job. What did you think?
Yeah, I think in general their design looked pretty good. I didn't really feel like they were going to win. But I do, before we get too far, I did notice that this season we have the visit from Ty. Which I'm not exactly sure what the show purpose is of this. Are they not getting enough commentary from the people in their interviews, or does Ty need a bigger presence on the show? Because he visited Mina and Vernon one week, and this week he was visiting Taniya and Drew. I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, they wanted to go for the hotel feel. They had the bed right in the middle of the room, which which Brooke didn't like. I thought it was smart. If you got two people in the bed, they both can get out of it, which kind of wondered about in Scott and Brooke's room. It kind of looked tight. Wasn't exactly sure how big of a bed you could put in their room. Mm-hmm. Not exactly sure how big of a bed you could put in the middle of any of this, but having it, if you're shoving it up against the wall, I think creates problems. If you could put the back against the wall. In this case, their bed kind of had wings on the back of it, and between the wings, they put that couch.
The little bench.
That little bench, from the design challenge. So that looked pretty intentional, pretty, everything seemed thoughtful, I think.
Yeah, I thought, their staging was good. Their space came across as a bedroom, clearly, with a kitchenette attached, whereas Vernon and Mina's came across as a kitchen with a daybed in the corner.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a different approach.
Yeah.
I think if you were staying if this were a guest suite that I were having people to stay at that came to visit me, I would be very proud to have them stay in this guest suite. They would be very comfortable. They would have a stovetop, a wine fridge, and a sink. They would not have a dishwasher, probably wouldn't need one. And you probably could have shoved a microwave in their counter or somewhere, I think. I don't know. I know that once again, they had no microwave. But, the overall was cohesive. It's not a place that you would want to rent as a studio apartment and have friends over because, the center of the whole room was this bed, right?
Yeah. And, there was again not that much storage. The sink was next to the stove, so you didn't have that much counter space. You didn't have much of storage. You had a wine fridge, but it why?
Yeah, it's not someplace where
really,
you would stay for a long time.
You
Yeah,
could put a couple steaks in there.
you could put your leftovers in there with
Put your
wine.
leftovers in
Yeah.
there.
But then
Because if you could
couldn't
move some of the
microwave them 'cause
racks, but you
didn't
can't
have a
microwave it. Yeah, it was a big miss. I mean, it looked nice, but I think that there was a big miss on all of that. Yeah, the butcher block top in the island I thought was nice. A little few comments about the light fixture in the kitchen, which I thought looked like Skylab.
It did. It looked like Skylab.
Skylab,
Yes.
yeah. 'Cause which I didn't appreciate.
And Brooke hated it. She did not pull any punches there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's nice to see her open up. Never sure what's going on in that head of hers, but at least now we know she's not getting it on with Scott, and she doesn't like the light fixture. So.
Yeah, there we go. So now they did do. They had sort of a feature wall where they had timber, wood, and they had sort of tambour, and it was lit around it.
That looked great.
And that looked nice.
Yeah.
And apparently, this colorless wallpaper that they put on that had different texture. Their fellow contestants were really impressed by that. It didn't show very well on TV. Like when you just looked at the room, it just looked like a white room. When they showed a close-up of it, it did look cool.
It did kind of look cool. Yeah.
So I think it did soften the room. And then they had nice colors, nice symmetry in their little kitchenette. And their bathroom looked good too. They decided to go with this light green tile.
The X tile
the X tile that was on sale.
Wayfair's kind of in a sale on that right now.
Home Depot this week. So they had the X tile, and then they had just square tiles in the shower. So I thought their bathroom looked nice. I mean, overall, like they said, it looked like a nice high-end hotel room suite. And if that's what they were going for, they achieved it. Probably didn't add as much to the appraisal as some of the other ones, but they did end up winning the weekly prize.
Yeah, they did. What they had a floating vanity in the bathroom, so they didn't really have that much storage. It definitely had the hotel feel, which is what they said they were going for. Yeah. So congratulations. I've stayed in a lot of hotels where I couldn't reheat or cook my leftovers.
Yeah, no, and I think, like you say, I mean, it's nicer than where people. Well, I don't know. When people come to visit us, they not only get a bedroom, they get the media room as their lounge area.
Unless somebody else is staying there.
Which does have a microwave.
Does have a microwave in it, and snacks.
And a refrigerator. And salt.
That's where the beer is kept, too. So
if you come to visit us, you get the hotel feel with a full suite.
Yeah,
yes. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
But that
and we charge. You get that hardtail bill, too. Still waiting on that payment. Calling your sister this weekend.
Anyway, okay, so we're going to take one more break, and then we will talk about the room of rooms, Kim and Chelsea. Okay, so Stephen, I want to tell you a story.
All right.
Okay, way back when I started my career working in the aerospace industry in Los Angeles, a bunch of us all decided to go to Las Vegas for the weekend. And we were first job out of college. None of us had much money, and this was our first big trip to Las Vegas.
Okay, I want no crap. No, I want credit for not having said anything about exactly what year or inferring that this was back in the Stone Age or anything like that. I just want credit for having let you tell your story. So go ahead.
You don't get credit because you just interrupted me in the middle of my story.
Yeah, but I didn't make the crack.
Let me finish.
So anyway, you and your girlfriends went to Vegas.
There was a whole bunch of us. There were some guys, too. We didn't all stay together.
Oh.
We went to Vegas. But my point is, because we
Story to come later.
Stephen. Because we had no money, we all chose to stay in the very least expensive hotel on the Vegas Strip, which is Circus.
Oh.
And for some reason, Kim and Chelsea decided to recreate the vibe of the very cheapest hotel on the hotel strip, Circus.
Did your room have like the tinted ceiling?
No.
Festooned. Was it festooned?
No, but there are areas that are festooned. And if you ever stay at Circus, on the second floor, they have people doing like circus acts. Like
okay, yeah, sure.
trapeze
Right,
artists and stuff like that, right? So the rooms are not festooned, but if I remember correctly, the main decor colors are orange and pink. Yes.
Yeah, I've never stayed there.
Yeah. Well, it's the hotel to stay in when you don't want to spend a lot of time in your hotel, I would say, and
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
Nothing against it. People who like circus.
Turn off the lights. You can't see the color.
There you go.
I guess, unless, I don't know unless they're really that bright.
Yeah. So I really don't know what possessed Kim and Chelsea.
Did you have shag carpeting in that hotel room?
Probably, yes. And it was not in the 1970s, by the way, when I was living in Los Angeles, before you try to make another crack.
I said nothing.
But there very well could have been shag carpeting in the hotel room. So anyway, Kim and Chelsea started with what seemed like it might be a reasonable idea. They're like, hey,
really?
Everybody... I'm trying, Stephen. I'm not Brooke. I don't always go right to, then I try to see the good in things, right? So what they were thinking is that...
So, a multi-gen suite with a kitchenette speaks movie theater to you.
Would you please let me finish my thoughts?
Okay,
Okay. I'm going to... Anyway... What they were thinking is everybody else is going to stage this like an apartment or a guest room, and we want to do something different. How can we make this an additional space in the house? And so they were thinking about it not so much as a separate apartment, but as another room in the home. So to that end, they actually added a door from the rest of the house to the multi-generational suite, which, depending on how you want to use the house, you might very well want that. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily want to go outside every time I wanted to access one of the rooms in the house. So this way, they could go directly from the house into the suite, and then they moved the door so that it was facing the courtyard, and they had a whole wall there where they could put their kitchenette. So, okay, they want to make it a flex space where you can have access to the rest of the house. That in itself is not a terrible idea. Would you agree?
Having a flex space in the house is not a terrible idea. I would agree with that. I have a few issues. Okay, so let's just start. Let's just start by the doors. Moving the door into the suite, I think, was really smart because it did give them that full wall. What they had there were a couple of windows, and you can replace the windows with the door. They had what I thought was a really nice looking door. They were the ones with the door that had a glass panel in it. I think that was smart because looking at the diagram, assuming the person staying in that has access to the one-car garage, they're not coming right into that foyer like they would be walking straight across. They have to go into the courtyard, and so they've got to get into the multi-general suite. And if they didn't move the door, then they've got to turn and go in, and then go through the door instead of just going straight across into the door. So I think that was smart because it did kind of give them more wall space, which in something this small, that's wall space is kind of a premium.
Yeah.
Now, if those of you who may not have the diagram in front of you, what is on the other side of the wall where they put the door to the house is a bedroom.
Or what looks like
it's supposed. Well, I mean, they market this as a 3-bedroom house,
so that has to be a bedroom. Yeah,
we've got the main suite, we've got the multi-generational suite. Everything else is labeled, unless you're going to turn the RV garage into a bedroom, which is not how it's marketed. This has a closet. It's got what is that? It's got its own bathroom. It's got a closet. So this door goes into the bedroom. So in order to access going through the house, you're walking through another bedroom. So I think that was stupid because now I think that's going to hurt the appraisal on top of everything else. And I guess in the renderings that they did initially, they were taking the closet out, leaving in the linen closet, but taking out the closet, which calls it a bedroom. Fortunately, they didn't do all of that. They did leave a little bit of that, so you can still technically call this a bedroom. But the fact that the door opens up into the other bedroom, I think causes a problem with that other bedroom, because now that bedroom has got 3 walls with doors on it.
Yeah.
So it's going to be hard to navigate that other bedroom or that space, however it gets dictated. So I think this is a huge negative. Now, it doesn't look like they're going to be designing that space so they can get away with it. Mm-hmm. But I think whoever's going to come in and buy this, that's unless this really works with them, that's something they're going to have to fix, because having this door going in, because you're going to be walking through another bedroom. Somebody's going to be staying there to get to the theater. You got to go through somebody's bedroom.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, the other problem I have is that where they put the TV. Okay, fine. They got the TV. That is also the wall that backs up to this bedroom. Typically, if you're going to have the theater room like this, you're going to have wall-mounted speakers. You're going to have a left and a right. You're going to have a center. They're going to be wall-mounted. Now, we know for our house, we've got the same thing in our media room. I can hear that upstairs in the kitchen when it's on because it goes through the walls. So whoever is going to be staying in that bedroom is going to be listening to that movie. They better be participating, because they're going to have there's no way they're going to be able to sleep unless they, and then people are going to be walking through it when they're done. I mean, there's so many things wrong with having a door there. It makes no sense at all.
Well, plus the wall where they put the TV isn't really all that big, right? So they have a reasonably
but
big
this
TV,
isn't a very big
but
room.
not a huge TV, not like as big as what my sister has in California. And really, if it's truly a media room, you might want to have a projector there, right? And so it's kind of like this largish TV with no sound system. It is not set up as a media room. Plus, it's long and thin, so if you're on the edges, you're not going to have a good view of whatever the media is. So these are a few problems. However, these are not the biggest problems with this room.
No, and I'm gonna call this out. That every now and then we think we've taken enough breaks, and I just feel like talking about this is going to take so long. We're going to need to take a break in the middle of Kim and Chelsea in order to talk. In order to have enough breaks to make it make sense.
Well, if you would have let me get through my story without interrupting, we probably would.
I don't think that had any impact on how many breaks how long we were going to talk about this. So.
All right. Okay. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back to talk about the circus. Hello. Had you ever heard of the word festoon before we watched this episode?
I've heard of spittoon. I don't know. Has that got something to do with the fesses?
Festoon is apparently draping fabric over the ceiling in an unattractive way.
I don't think unattractive is part of the definition. I didn't look it up. But.
So what they did is they spent a couple $1,000s. This is Kim and Chelsea we're talking about. A couple $1,000s on fabric. And they draped it across the ceiling of this multi-generational suite. Theater. And then they had drapery all around the wall where the TV was, and on the wall behind the couch. We'll get to the couch in a minute.
Yeah.
Everything was draped with this fabric.
Yeah.
Which I don't think was especially cool looking. And secondly, all I could think of was dust collector.
Yep. I just saw big dust collectors.
Yeah.
Fortunately, there was no bed, because I was imagining laying in bed looking at this going, how much frickin' dust is in this thing? But now, there's no bed.
There's no bed.
No bed. You don't have to worry about that.
Instead, somehow they found this gold plushy giant couch that would have fit in perfectly in the Brady Bunch.
It could have been part of some staging, something left over from Hollywood.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely vintage 1970 look for the big, 3/4 of a rectangle.
It was the same gold
couch.
fabric that Tanya used in a couple of the other rooms that I didn't like.
Yeah, that gold fabric is making a comeback apparently. And then they had a shag carpet.
That was
so
not really
it
shag.
really was like you were in some weird 1970s dream where you were on this gold plushy couch with fabric coming in to suffocate you from all sides. I don't know.
The rug that they finally went with, I'm not sure if that was shag. We didn't really get a good look at it. The carpet that they brought in just kind of looked to me like it was just a large pile carpet and not shag. I mean, having grown up in the 70s, we had shag carpeting, and it didn't look like they put a pad under it either, which would have been what you really, in order to experience the shag part. You really kind of need a nice pad under it, and they didn't do that. Again, all of this is staging, but I don't know if it was really shag or not, or just a large pile.
Yeah. So, and then what they did, and this was not so bad, on both in the bathroom and in the kitchenette, which we'll talk about the kitchenette in a minute. They used like this gold-plated wallpaper. So that was on either end of the room. And I thought it was kind of nice that they had the same wallpaper on either end. I'm struggling to find some good things to say. And they had a nice big mirror in the bathroom. And what did they do as far as tile went in the bathroom?
Well, they had they just had the paint. Wasn't this the room we were trying to figure out whether there was...
Yeah, I think it was just
We're
like
trying
a
to figure
white
out whether
tile.
they had put a plaster in the shower,
I
or
think
whether
it was
tile. Couldn't really tell. The edges around the shower niche were just so precise that I thought it didn't look like tile to me.
Well, I thought it looked like tile. He thought it looked like. But
know.
if they had done that micro cement, they would have talked about it.
I thought again maybe it was micro cement, but they
then
they didn't talk about them doing the shower. There was so much fabric to talk about.
Oh, I know that was.
I think they just kind of got. We could have had an hour on Kim and Chelsea. On this show.
Well, and then, the shower was clearly an afterthought because they had the gold trim wallpaper with the double mirror, and then they had gold faucets, but then inexplicably they had chrome fixtures in the shower.
Yeah.
So it just didn't. I mean,
right.
They must have just thrown that shower together. Like, hey, give us some building grade tile and a shower head and call it a day. That's kind of what it looked like.
Yeah,
to me.
it did not look like. Like it had been thought through. I don't remember. They didn't have a water? Did they have a water closet?
Yeah,
they had a water closet. Okay.
Yeah. So then the kitchen, if you want to call it a kitchen, was basically just a counter with some cabinets underneath. Instead of having a stovetop, they had like an induction device that would heat up the counter itself. I'm not exactly sure how this worked. I don't know if it heat ups the whole counter. I don't know how you can tell whether it's still hot or not because it didn't look like there were any lights there.
Right.
So I just worried that it would be heated and that's the type of counter you would jump up and sit on, and boy, you would...
Surprise! It's on.
No cabinets or anything above the counter. It was just a wall with 3 lights on it. And instead of they had like a wine fridge.
Yeah, and they closed it off too, so it wasn't like it was this open space that went to the ceiling. It was intentionally
closed
and
off.
filled in.
No, I mean,
And
even if you're using it as a media room, I mean, there was no cabinet there where you would put the media equipment or anything. I mean, or they could have used that for snacks or dishes or whatever.
I don't know.
It was just closed off.
I did notice that they did happen to find gold outlet covers.
There you go.
To go along with this.
So
they missed it in the kitchen,
highlight,
but they did have the outlet gold mirrored outlet
That was
covers.
really the highlight of their design, was the gold mirrored outlet covers.
I was surprised they didn't have a mirror behind the kitchen, since when you're cooking, you like to see yourself.
Yeah, that's always nice.
Because remember, they made that comment about how people that don't like to have a mirror in their backsplash have problems with how they feel about themselves. I guess in this room, people are going to be there. They're going to feel
is anyone ever really going to cook there? And they should have had a microwave. And a popcorn machine would have been adorable there and practical, but they didn't do that.
No.
All the time, I think, was spent on this fabric process, the festooning of the room.
Which they started to do themselves, and then they had to bring in a
professional festooner. I didn't know that was a profession.
Fabric expert.
A fabric expert.
Which probably costs more than your average painter.
I would think so.
I would
It's
think
a
so.
rarer,
So
it's a
yeah.
rarer talent. Yeah. So let's just sum up their design. It was a bad space for a media room. The layout didn't really make sense. And the decor was just unbelievable.
You could just leave dead space and that would be about right. Just the core was. There you go.
I have trouble believing that somebody would buy that house and keep that space as it was designed. I don't know. I mean, maybe it looks better in person, but
Yeah, I know. Going back to this induction thing, the only way the teams knew that it was there was because they had put some sort of rubber thing on top and put a pot on top of it. So Mina goes up, oh, this is one of those induction stoves. You take that away, you don't. Where is it? Where is the spot that gets hot? And again, how do you know? We've had these other, the kind of the glass top electric ranges where when they're hot, there's a light that stays on, so you know it's hot. And there was nothing that I could see there, so there's no way. I cannot believe this passes code.
I don't know.
I mean, maybe I should add that to my Landon Miller list and ask about that.
Yeah.
But that's a good idea.
Well, the best reaction to this was, so it was so funny because when Mina and Vernon came in and when Taniya and Drew came in, they tried to be nice and they're like, oh, this is creative and risk-taking, and they tried to find things that they liked about it and they were very positive. Scott and Brooke came in and Scott could not stop laughing.
Yeah, I mean, as much editing as they do on this, there was no way they could edit all that out.
I mean, laughing. And then Brooke just said it like she thought, So she said what all the other people were thinking. Like, she's the one who will tell you if you look fat in the dress or if you have something in your teeth. And so she kind of said it like she thought. Said what all the other ones were probably thinking, but were too polished and professional to actually say. So anyway, I like Chelsea and Kim, and I guess I applaud them for trying to do something different. But the moral here is festooning is what's about the equivalent of putting a concrete pickleball court in your basement, I would say.
No. No, because without the net there, it could be anything, right? So, but if you don't take the festooning down, the festooning is there. I mean, so you have to actively do something to get rid of it.
And then you have to do something to treat the walls or whatever.
Yeah, then you've got to clean up the ceiling or wherever it was attached, and then you've got to figure out how to remedy whatever it is that you want to do with this space, because the amazement never cease. And and we've been watching Kim's show, and I don't believe she's used festooning in anything we've seen yet. Maybe that's to come. Maybe the future episodes of why the heck did I buy this house? The answer is because it wasn't festooned. So let's just festoon it. Here's a festoon. There's a festoon.
Yeah, all right. Well, we should run out and see where we can add festooning to our house after we finish up here, Stephen. What do you think? Anyway, well, so that wraps it up for this week. Taniya and Drew finally get the win. They decided to take the $1,000 toward the final appraisal as opposed to taking the $3,000. And next week, it's going to be the laundry room, RV garage, and what's the third space they have to do next week?
Oh, the office.
The office.
The office. If I've got the diagram here somewhere, I thought I had it right on top.
So that should be pretty interesting, actually, to see what they do with the RV garage. And
we got the laundry and the office, which are side by side. Right next to the office exits to the courtyard, so another courtyard thing. The laundry is across from the main suite, Mina, and then you got the RV garage. So that's what we're doing next week, and the judge is the lady from Love It or List It. Yeah. The original Love It to List It, the one from Canada, eh?
Hey.
Luann de Lesseps.
And it'll be interesting to
So she's a
see.
singer. I didn't know she was a singer.
I could see that.
Okay.
She has a good speaking voice. But anyway, Mina and Vernon did say that they've been saving up for something big.
Yes, yes.
Which
That was
Stephen
what you've
and
been.
I have been.
Well, that was your
speculating
idea. I'm
this
not
the whole
gonna.
time.
That's
So
what you've
I
been
think they
saying.
are going to have something special
thought they were
planned
making
for that
mistakes left
RV
and right.
garage. So we'll see what ends up going on in the RV garage. I have a feeling it's not going to be a place
festoon?
where you're going to put.
Theater? I don't know.
We will see.
It did kind of look like Scott and Brooke had a bunch of pickleballs in front of them.
Oh, could we have the return of the pickleball court?
Da, 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 da.
Anyway, well, I can't wait. And we're actually doing our podcast a little bit late this week, so we'll be able to watch the next episode tomorrow.
Yeah, so my apologies this week. If any of you couldn't tell, last podcast, Amy was suffering from some massive disease, and so she decided to get rid of it by giving it to me. And we were going to do the podcast, and I'm like, I can't think, I can't talk. There's no way I could get through this without coughing. So we decided to put it off and not regale you with lots of
Yeah. So anyway,
which is what Kim and Chelsea did this week. I'm not joking.
Anyway, well, this week we're hoping to get the podcast out a little bit earlier. So thank you so much for your patience. Thank you, as always, for listening. And we will see you next week on Talk the Block.